Congratulations! You've connected with the Pulpit Perspectives podcast. Join Reverend Doctor Kent Lundy as he connects with pastors where they preach, literally at the pulpit of their church. It's a point of view with purpose and personality that informs and inspires with real life stories from great preachers you need to know. Your host is Reverend Dr. Kent Lundy. Let's join Kent at a pulpit with a fresh perspective from his guest preacher.
Hello and welcome to Pulpit Perspectives Podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Kent Lundy. Pulpit Perspectives Podcast exists to create connection among clergy of the North District of the Indiana Annual Conference and their congregations. I'm coming to you from the chancel at Church of the Four Seasons, United Methodist Church in Winfield, Indiana, which is near Valparaiso. And I'm standing here with their senior pastor, Pastor Tom Clark. Tom, welcome to Pulpit Perspectives Podcast.
Well, thank you, Kent. Pleasure to be with you this morning.
All right. So how long have you been senior pastor of Church of the Four Seasons, United Methodist Church?
I am actually entering into my third year here. I was here prior to this, though, as the associate. So actually, I have been associated with this church in one form or fashion for a decade.
Okay. And this is not your only appointment?
No, it is not. I also pastor Hebron, Salem United Methodist Church.
And how long have you been their pastor?
I've been there for nearly 6 years. I'll celebrate my 6th anniversary December 2nd of this year.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? As if you think being a senior pastor is not fun enough.
Okay.
Kent, actually, what I've started doing for fun is I used to run all the time. And I've decided as I've aged, running becomes a bit too treacherous. So I've started walking to enjoy myself. And I find walking through cemeteries, this may seem a bit odd, but I find myself walking through cemeteries a lot. And that is a great sense of relief. And I almost have a hard time saying it, but fun.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Nothing wrong with thinking about death to bring us to life.
That's exactly right. You always have that great gift of life, but you start with thinking about death, and then life becomes easy to accept and joyfully accept. Also, though, I just enjoy the connections we have. I have 2 wonderful congregations, and we have great connections, great circle of folks who support what we're doing at both churches, and that brings me great joy.
Okay. So who are you, Mary or Martha?
Depends on the day, Kent. Depends on the day. And I think that every pastor needs to be just a bit of both. We need those times when we are spiritually sensitive, when we are still in the presence, if you will. We also need those times when we have to be about the work of the church. And so we all must be a little Mary and a little Martha, depending on the context. We are all contextual ministers.
And to be able to be agile enough and self-aware enough to know when you need to be which one when.
Exactly. And the key is knowing when not to be one and when. That's what we call the balance we all seek in ministry, but rarely fully achieve.
Yeah. So what is your favorite church season?
Oh, my favorite church season? Believe it or not, I have one of my favorite seasons is Lent. And I'll tell you why. Lent is a time when I spiritually renew. For me, that is one of the most appropriate liturgical seasons of the year. As we are into our Lenten reflection, it causes me to reflect about the totality of my ministry, totality of my life as a follower of Jesus Christ, as a disciple. So to me, that is a great time of renewal, preparation, reflection, introspection, if you will, examination. So I always particularly walk out of Lent on that beautiful Easter morning as we celebrate Christ is risen today, with a new sense of renewal, a new sense of perhaps a deeper spirituality.
Yes, what a gift. What a gift Lent is. I'm right there with you. So what are you celebrating?
What am I celebrating? I celebrate the very fact that we have this great gift in the United Methodist Church right now. To be very candid, I'm celebrating what I feel is a Genesis moment in the church. I feel it in both congregations. I feel it throughout the North District. I feel it in our conference. It is really a Genesis moment, and we're all called to celebrate. You know, for the last several years, people have been headed off to a funeral. They're bringing the spices to anoint, and actually we are heading off to a celebration. And that, to me, is a great, great testament to who we are as United Methodists. If we are nothing else, we are resilient in God's continuing revelation. And that's my cause for celebration and great joy.
Wow. Break out the party favors.
Break out the party favors, absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank God. Yes, I agree. Yes. So what is your go-to Bible verse?
My go-to Bible verse. Very interesting, you would say that, okay? And it's something that I have been preaching on very recently. And it is, you will do greater things than I. Because what that says to me is that there is a mission that we hold, a sacred mission that with God's Spirit, we will do great things as the people, as resurrection people. And that, to me, I hold on to that verse. You know, I start out my sermons by saying, you know, there's power in the name. And because there's power in the name, we will do even greater things. And that is, to me, I hold on to that verse. Also, since childhood, the very first verse I memorized came from the Psalms. And it was, great peace have they who love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. And I have repeated that verse every day of my life in the morning. I've repeated it throughout the day, throughout trials and tribulations and the challenges of ministry and serving as an associate, serving as a senior pastor. Great peace have they who love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. And to me, that has been a go-to verse. I find the Psalms very, very comforting. That's always been something I rest in the Psalms.
You can never go wrong with the Psalms.
No, you cannot. That's right.
So who inspired your call to ministry?
Very interesting story. My call to ministry had many people along the way who inspired me. Of course, I grew up in the United Methodist Church, and I grew up really having a great sense of admiration for the pastors that served our small church in Illinois where I was growing up. And I always found something interesting about the United Methodist Church, and that was the pastors really seemed committed to this life of itinerancy. And to me, that was a great model because we all become so fixed in who we are and where we're going. So I would say my first influence happened to be the pastors that served the churches I grew up in. But then there have been many other influences throughout my life. I had in a previous career, I worked with developmentally disabled adults. And there was a woman who was a client at the agency I was serving who had the deepest faith I've ever encountered. And all she wanted to do was be in church. All she wanted to do was talk about God. And I thought, what a profound faith, and she inspired me. And of course, along the way, all of the colleague pastors, all of the people who've walked the journey at different churches with me. But there was one individual, a professor. He was not my professor, but he was a professor at Olivet Nazarene University, who helped me fully understand how significant it is when we say God's grace wins hands down. And if there was a phrase that inspired me to follow this call, after taking several different directions and routes, it's that phrase, God's grace wins hands down.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sounds like an incredible cloud of witnesses.
An incredible cloud of witnesses, yes. And I needed an incredible cloud of witnesses, Ken.
You and me.
Trust
both,
me,
brother.
yes.
Yes, all right. So who or what keeps you humble?
Two things it keeps me humble. First of all, I heard from a pastor many years ago, never believe the church you serve cannot thrive without you. Never believed that. Also, I have to continually remind myself, this church is not about me. This is about Jesus Christ. That's why I'm here. If I'm an instrument of that grace, then that's my role. That keeps me humble. The other thing that keeps me humble, I have a practice that I started years ago in this church, and I do it as well at Salem. I arrive at the church early in the morning. I come into this very sanctuary when it's completely dark. I don't turn the lights on because I was actually here 4 years before they let me turn the lights on. So I finally was admitted to the tech booth back there. When I became senior pastor, I finally got to touch the light switch. But I come in here in the stillness, and I am so humbled by the presence of God. I don't speak. I will come and I will kneel right here and just open myself to God's presence. And that is the most humbling experience you can have. And that's how I start every day. And to me, that keeps me grounded, recognizing who I am, but most importantly, who I am not.
Yeah, who I am not. Yes. That'll preach.
That'll preach, my friend. That'll preach.
That might be your Lenten sermon series.
I'm working on the sermon series now, so that may be it.
So if you only had one preacher to listen to the rest of your life, who would that one preacher be?
Oh, wow. Out of all of the preachers I have heard, I can say this. With all due consideration to you being present, I think Dr. Marty does a wonderful job. An excellent preacher. I have come to truly enjoy Bishop Trimble. His preaching is, I think, phenomenal. It is inspirational, it is biblical, it is challenging, and it leaves you wanting more, which I think is the essence of good preaching. Solid preaching.
Yeah. Can't go wrong. There you go. Okay. Well, that was two, but I'll let that slide. All right.
Okay, sorry about that.
Since you mentioned my wife. All right.
Yes, I did. I thought you'd let it slide because I mentioned your wife. That's fine.
So pretend with me, you're going to go axe throwing. Okay, so that's not up for debate. You're going to go axe throwing.
Okay.
So who from Scripture are you taking to go axe throwing with?
Great question. Great question. And actually, as I think about that and all of the different folks we engage in Scripture, I really have to stop and say, I would really like to go axe throwing with Nicodemus, because he's a person who I think is totally misunderstood. And I would love to spend some time with him, because we only picture him in these vignettes. But yet, here is a person who obviously is well established in the Jewish hierarchy, a man of great faith, great knowledge, obviously. But yet, we always hear under the cover of darkness. But yet, he comes throughout Scripture. We see him rise up again. And I'm interested. I'd love to have the axe throwing experience with Nicodemus, just to understand his transition, his growth in faith, his coming to know Jesus. That to me would be a great axe throwing conversation.
And I picture him showing up with night vision goggles.
Night vision goggles, exactly.
I only operate at night. I haven't been trusted with the light switch technology yet.
Exactly.
So I don't know how to turn the lights on.
I think night vision goggles would be essential if Nicodemus and I are going to go axe throw.
Okay.
Exactly.
You could whip some hiney that way.
Yes,
I'm
we
sure.
could, without a doubt.
Nicodemus and Tom Clark running the tables.
We'll run the tables with that, I tell you.
Okay. I can picture it. I can. All right. Well, what do you hope your fellow clergy know? When you think about them, whether you know them personally or at a distance, what do you hope your fellow clergy know?
Know about me or know about?
Yes. I'm intentionally being ambiguous.
Okay.
What do you want them, or what do you hope they know?
I hope, number one, they know that I'm a colleague, a true colleague, that we are one in community, that we are in community bound by Christ, that we are a community bound by connection, that we are connectional. Also, I would hope they would know how sacred this calling is and how sacred our mission is. That is something that I think must be the beginning point That has to be the beginning point of any true ministry. Recognize the sacred nature of what we do each and every day. And that's what I hope every pastor knows. And that's what I hope they would see in me, that I do. And on occasion, I have to remind myself that what we are undertaking is a sacred task. And we're doing it with our human means. We're doing it with our human limitations. We're doing it with our human challenges. But the mission is sacred. The mission is steadfast. And we are called within that mission. I believe it's the last line we have from Paul writing to the church of Corinth, where I think in the Message translation it says to be steady and trust in God, hope unswervingly, and love extravagantly. And that's the sacred definition of our mission. That's what we're called to do. And I hope we know that.
I hope so too. That if we got that right, it would be a pretty amazing day. So
it would be an amazing day.
Okay. Well, last question, and I appreciate your time. When you think about your future at Church of the Four Seasons and Hebron, Salem as their pastor, what 3 words come to mind when you think about that future together?
First word is Genesis. Okay? That comes to mind because I want both these congregations to be Genesis congregations, always a new creation, always creating. First is Genesis. Second is obviously connection. I want both congregations to recognize the profound beauty, intentionality, and purpose of our connectional ministries. So Genesis, connection, and finally prayer. Those 3 are intertwined. If we are to be Genesis congregations, okay, we have to be connected congregations. Not only are connectional within the United Methodist Church, within the North District, but connected with our mission field. We have to be contextual. We have to be responsive. We have to be proactive. So Genesis, connection, and then prayer. Central to everything we do is prayer. Broadly understood, but prayer. Saying, and by that I mean a prayer that essentially says, what happens when we decide to get out of God's way and let God's Spirit work in 2 congregations? Then we are Genesis congregations. Okay? Then we are connectional congregations, and we can connect with our mission field. And finally, we're congregations where prayer is the central energy, the life breath in the churches.
Genesis, connection, and prayer. Well, I hope and pray that you will lead into that new reality, and those 3 words will continue to come alive in your 2 congregations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and that is indeed our fervent hope. And certainly we have a great group of churches, pastors. Indiana Conference is thriving and will continue to thrive. North District, there's a passion here that I feel is unmatched, and we are going to continue to build and grow and continue to serve.
Well, thank you. Pastor Tom Clark, coming to you from Church of the Four Seasons, United Methodist Church in Winfield, Indiana. Thank you so much for being a guest on Pulpit Perspectives Podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure.
Pulpit Perspectives Podcast exists to create connections among the clergy of the North District of the Indiana Annual Conference and their churches. I would invite you to find out all the great things that God is doing in the North District by liking and following the Facebook page for the North District and also checking out the INUMC website, inumc.org. This has been Pulpit Perspectives Podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Doctor Kent Lundy, signing off for now.
There you have it, a fresh perspective from the pulpit with a great preacher. You know you want to hear more. You can do just that by connecting with Pulpit Perspectives with Reverend Dr. Kent Lundy on Apple Podcast and Spotify, where you can like and follow the podcast. What's more, you can spread the good news about Pulpit Perspectives in your church and with your neighbors. Plan now on joining Kent at the pulpit, where you'll meet another great preacher on Pulpit Perspectives.